right, everybody, sit up straight and tall. Start to feel more rather than less. Hopefully, allowing can start to become a mind-body sensation, right? And part of when you practice enough, I think my experience is, at least over time, when I allow, it's one of the things that yoga has taught me, or asana has taught me, is that allowing doesn't necessarily mean a physical collapse, right? That in fact, when I start to feel more, because I've practiced enough and so much, I start to almost come into alignment, right? As opposed to just, whew, right? So soften your jaw and around the temples and notice your exhale more and all the things we typically do. And then there's a natural consequence of feeling more. Like, and I don't know, it's not like, for me at least now, it's not like I'm saying it's like a sack of potatoes hitting the floor. It's more uh, a natural being led into a position that has more lightness in it, right? So, and hopefully over time, you'll find that alignment is a form of effortless mind-body integration. So you start to feel, as you allow and feel more, you start to organize yourself congruently with gravity. Like you start going, okay, am I equal on my sitting bones on my feet? Because that allows you to feel even more connected to the energy that's here, of which your body is a participant. So lips together, teeth slightly apart, quieter, but let your body be a participant, not a disruptor. So it takes a mind that quiets down and a body that comes into greater alignment, greater symmetry, or a sense of symmetry, because my body's never going to be, neither is yours, perfectly symmetrical. So as you activate slightly, so feel your sitting bones and your feet. And so like the connection between your sitting bones and your feet, that's there even before you press and lengthen from the inner groin to the inner knee to the inner heel. And so then as you start to engage, is already following a path. And the path is more than your imagination. It's your awareness from inside to out. And then lift your chest. Chances are, as your mind got active like this, to search through your body, you probably tensed the inside of your mouth. You probably very slightly gripped your jaw, right? So re-soften there, activate through the body, ground, and then expand. Lift under the collarbones, extend the tips of the shoulders. Hit down through your sitting bones, extend out through the top of your head. Feel your feet on the floor. Alignment, quiet, attention, activation. All these things occurring keep them, and then let your mind go at another level. Feel the touch of the air in the room on your skin. Let in even more. Repose. Reinvigorate. Let go of your day. Prepare your mind to do yoga. Good. And then after your next exhale, lift your sternum and drop your chin. Activate your spine slightly more. Feel the ribs. Then the movement of the inhalation, nudging like a horse's snout, right? Nudging expansion. And then on the exhalation, lengthen your spine. Hit down through your sitting bones and lift up through your chest. So there's an expansion on the inhalation and a lengthening on the exhalation. And then raise your head up with closed eyes and open your eyes. So I'm curious, when you hear the line like let go of your day and prepare your mind to do yoga, ask yourself, what do you do in that moment? Like, what do you do to prepare yourself to do yoga? Like, do you pause? Do you what? So, have just a seat for a second. Feel your body, like a pause for a second. Feel your body. And we're going to do an asana class, right? A chair class. But when you think about, okay, now let go of your day, which means let go of all the edges that you've already put into your day, the judgments, right? And then prepare your mind to do yoga. What is that even? Don't let that be a throwaway line. What would you do? What do you actually do when you prepare to do yoga? Right? When you're sitting there. Does anyone want to share anything about what they do? One of the things I like doing is actually for places I never thought there was something that I was actively doing, trying to articulate what it is I do, right? Like, how would you prepare to do yoga? Angelique, I'm going to call on you because that's what I'm going to do.
It's so funny because I was actually going to raise my hand.
Yay!
Well, I like to.
Angelique teaches on Wednesdays, by the way, for My Body Solution. So I get to call on her and pick on her even more than normal.
And now Thursdays, alternate Thursdays.
Thursdays, yeah, that's right, yeah.
I like to recommit to my breath. It just, if I try to just hone into my breath again, or to start, like sometimes I realize I haven't even really started to just pay attention to my breath. That's the one way that I am able to, because I always start my practice with a meditation. And so, as you do, but it helps me.
For sure. So Gay, I see what you put in the box, in the chat box, and Gay's not speaking. So pay attention and be in the present moment. Well, kind of, Gay, I want to laugh and go, that's exactly what you mean. How the hell do you do that? Right? Like, pay attention and be in the present moment. Yeah, if we could all do that, like, oh my God, that would be exactly the goal. It's the how you actually do that, right? Like, and is it something that you do or not do? So Angelique, so they're exactly right. Both Angelique is saying, well, for you, Angelique, it sounds to me like the breath is a touchstone for you. It's a reminder. It helps you drop back into the present and be in the present moment, right? So that would be one touchstone, right? Right? Breath would be a good one. The acknowledgement, what Gay is saying about, you know, be in the present moment, there's something about that, but the present moment's received, right? It's not asserted.
Yeah, for me, I try to soften my brain, and I visualize just opening it and kind of befriending it, like having it with me while my body is softening and being in awareness. So it's kind of like
body softening though, or is your body staying more alert as your brain is softening?
Right. Well, I'm trying to like have them both befriend one another. If
How
that
would
makes
you describe the process of befriending? See, these are literally where words fail, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm not calling anyone to task. I'm saying let's keep working
No,
for some words here.
no, I get that.
I,
No, I would say it's a visualization of just trying to, instead of like, I think initially I used to think, okay, I'm going to take my brain off my mind and I'm going to put it over there. And that just seemed so antagonistic, It was like, no, wait a minute. I'd like to have a flow between mind and body. And so it's a visualization.
We see, but I want to take to task the word visualization. Isn't it deeper than you just using your vision?
Yeah, well, it's an inner vision.
Okay, so that's a big difference, right?
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Right. So the problem with visualization as a word by itself, unless you already mean inner vision, which not even sure what inner would mean in terms of vision, right? Because you literally don't have an inner vision of the blood flowing through your vessels, right? So it's not really a vision. When you say inner vision, you're not really, it's interesting that we tend to think about these things in terms of vision and visualization, right?
I see.
Well, I guess a body sense, it's like, how can I, enter into that? It's like, imagine like being in my
exactly
hand.
But again, you just defaulted to mental language.
Okay.
Imagine, right? Which I don't think your imagination, what I'm hearing in your words, and then Bill, we'll go to you. What I'm hearing in your words is that there's what you're calling imagination and visualization includes the body becoming more receptive, right?
Yes.
I don't think you mean visualization. I think that receptivity is a form of the brain doing something else to hear more of what's coming from the body, right? Which I don't think is a visualization. I think it's an inward release. You already used the word softening. So, but that softening and alertness in your spine can also be simultaneous.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that language. I mean,
The language is tough. Like the language.
Yeah.
So Bill, what did you want to pop in there?
The word that comes to mind when you mentioned prepare for yoga is harmonizing. And it's just how many parts are can I start harmonizing with? I two-part harmony, three-part harmony, four-part harmony. Because it goes on and on and on, and it's an endless process. But
so that it's like harmonizing does have a connotation of discordant parts coming into something whole, like different streams of streams coming into a river, or you know what I mean, like there is something about that word that captures part of what the experience is that we're already having, right? So we're just trying to describe, right, the things that we're not used to putting to word. So I'm looking at, can you see with your eyes closed? Maybe. So there, that line from Dennis, becoming aware of the air, senses, temperature, sounds, not shut them out, but something else. Maybe it's energy. Can you see with your eyes closed? So that line, Dennis, right there would be exactly, probably, I'm guessing, why in wisdom teaching, they start talking about the third eye. Exactly as an effort. And notice they call it an eye, to get back to what Mary Ann's talking about, that it does seem like it's vision. But the idea that there's a third eye, and think about it metaphorically, right? Like we're just in a realm of trying to describe experience, and they're appealing to a third eye that's not literally there. But of course, we think of it as an actual eye because we try to make everything real, but they're actually trying to describe that there might be a way to see without sight. So there's this koan that actually, seeing with a third eye. Have you ever heard, can you hear the sound of clapping with one hand? You ever heard that? Like that as a not a brain teaser, but like as a wisdom teaching, like what's the sound of one hand clapping? Right now, think about what that line, that paradox in words does, right? Wait, there can't be a sound. Are you sure? What's the sound of one hand clapping? What's the sound of silence? Right? Is there a way for you to allow the possibility of the fact that, have you ever had silence be deafening? Like sometimes it's maybe happened in a church, maybe it's happened in the Grand Canyon, maybe it's happened where all of a sudden you're acutely aware of absence, right? I've one time heard it said, I heard my yoga teacher say, in the centering part, can you hear the silent om? Okay, so what the hell is all this, right? I'm not trying to visualize sound, but as you sit there, remember, if om is the sound of the universe, and if it were calibrated, if the universe had a sound, or whatever that is, the happening of the universe was forced into a sound, some of the tradition is saying that sound would calibrate to the actual sound of om. Mm-hmm. But that's the sound of the universe happening. What the hell? Sit up straight and tall for a second. In the absence, can't you almost hear the sound of om? I'm so glad they said those words, not because it actually is om, but because they put it to something I can go, wait, yeah. And then they chant om, and they get the songs of gongs and singing bowls and they start to try to like bring it to the senses more, right? But it's not about the sound of the singing bowl, right? It's about something else. So how do you prepare your mind to do yoga? In this really a weird way, you become maybe alert and passive at the same time. Maybe for me, I would say maybe when I try to prepare my mind to do yoga, I become more receptive. And that's what I think Marianne was talking about, softening, right? And then she went to the word visualize, right? Like see it. And then for me, like, this is what gets weird. So what she meant by softening, sometimes everyone sit up straight and tall. I've given this as an instruction before. Not that I even know what this even means, but I kind of do. Let your brain inside your skull recede from the edges of your skull. As soon as I do that, does anyone get the skin on their forehead to soften and right? You close your eyes and you go, wait, I'm gonna not be pushing and colliding with the edge of my own skull. I'm gonna let it recede. As soon as I start to let that recede, you know what naturally happens to me? I want to lift my chest. Because when I lift my chest, I can get a sense of this receding. Now, are these visualizations? I don't know. I don't know. Are they actually happening? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I'm thinking when I say visualization, included in that is also a curiosity of the possibility of what that might look like or feel like or allow.
So I think feel like is it, but so like my point is when I went through all these weird seeing with the third eye, the sound of one ha clapping, realize that the lineage is trying to communicate something to you that passes beyond words, that they're trying to figure out a way to say it in words that your rational mind can't fully understand. So they're literally trying to turn something off, like close down one corridor. You don't get to, the sound of one hand clapping is not a corridor you can walk down and make rational. It's going to stop a certain part of your mind. Doesn't it cause contemplation? Can't be described, only experienced. All these things are true, right? Like that, and that's why the centering is so important in an asana practice. Because for all the things you all are saying right now, can't be described, only can, doesn't it cause contemplation? Yeah, it could cause contemplation, or it could cause complete emptiness inside your head, which if you ever heard me say in Shavasana, let air be inside your head, the element of air, there's a lot of ways to describe this, right? Only the silence makes space for the sound, and the sound gives you something to hear or listen to. Yes, I mean, like, and maybe it does cause contemplation, right? It creates an opportunity for something. So sit up straight and tall again, knowing that the experience itself is what you're looking for. The quiet, and then the yogis are giving you instructions like soften your jaw, the skin on your forehead. Come into a state of slightly more heightened awareness so your body gets to participate in the sound, the silent sound of Om. Right? I'm just using words now. I'm throwing words together now, right? Because the yogis are trying to say, you aren't going to be able to enter this room through rational means. You're going to have to feel it. And what if that feeling is the bedrock of asana? So when I say things like centering's a door opener, this is what I mean. That's the words I put on it. I'm opening myself to a part of my nervous system that I want to be part of asana. So now, if you can, bring your hands together, even if they're like this, even if they're like this, right? So I want to, in this action, right? So what I think is really interesting about precision, right, is that it both makes things more controlled, but also if you do it right, it's an opening. So I'm going to have there be a little bit more pressure. And even if you can't get your hands together, your fingers together, slightly more pressure at the heel of your hands. And then open the center of your palm. And as you try to let the center of your palm and the connection at the heel of your hand be a reflection of the center of your chest and of your sitting bones. Now, as you're trying to go through your body, has your mouth tensed up? Has your jaw tensed up? Mm-hmm. There is no mastery here. There's only the expanse. So then we get back to Angelique's idea of, at this point, she goes into breath awareness. Maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't. So you're not just preparing your mind to do yoga. You're preparing everything. So now press your hands a little tight, more together, and now notice that it helps you lift underneath your collarbones. Drop your shoulder blades, but spread them. Hit down through your sitting bones. Press down through your feet. Start to bring asana online. Right? When I said let your body be a participant, right? And that it can manifest congruence, it can. It was never about how you push the heel of your hands together. It was about if that action was congruent. That's what asana is trying to teach you. Congruence. Good. And then release. What I love about asana too is that this awareness, this looked all pause and quiet, but this awareness can also be had in movement. So come forward. So now we're just going to with all this heavy stuff, we're going to just start to introduce movement again. Right? So it's like, oh, I don't know if it's heavy, but it certainly is quiet. Quiet gets heavy, right? Right? And then so you're going back and forth. And with all this inward thinking and contemplation, I now want the center of my chest to be more open. So as I'm going back over in this real gentle back bend, I'm wanting to make sure this opens up again, because my mind, when I think too hard, tends to collapse this part of my spine, right? Right? So I'm actually trying to let myself feel more, right? And so now I'm going to sit up straight and tall and lift the center of my chest and make sure that in this realm that like is at the realm of the sound of one hand clapping, I want the space behind my sternum to touch the empty space in the room, right? So how do I do that? What the hell, right? So I'm just going to sit here for a second, and I'm going to find, if I clench my jaw and grip my face, I'm not going to be as connected from the center of my chest to the empty space in the room. I'm going to have to actually not do that to be more receptive to a space I usually cover up. And this would be a good time to feel my breath, to introduce movement, right? And then take the Left hand up over your head. And this space opening, the skin stretching a little bit, right? Keep it connected to the center of your chest and the space between your sitting bones and the space between your heels. And take a breath or two. Now straighten it and make it more precise. Right? So now my arm's more activated. But can I keep it? If my head comes forward too far, my chest collapses. So I'm going to take it back. And I'm going to open and I'm going to try to keep my eyes, but not my eyes, the space behind my eyes, on the prize, on the part that's connected. And then I'm going to come down. So I kind of think when I said eyes on the prize, the part of me that is connected and unchanging, I kind of think that's part of the insight that yoga is trying to show. Right? So you're going to take this other arm on. First, I'm keeping it bent. And I'm just trying to, this side's way tighter on me. So I'm going to try to get it open more and try to feel the skin here, right? And connect it to the center of my chest. And then to my sitting bones. And then to my heels. This would be a good time to breathe, like Angelique is saying. Then I'm going to add precision. Straighten my arm. Try to figure out how to reconfigure to have everything touch everything. The sound of one hand clapping. Good, and then release. Everything touching everything is like the sound of one hand clapping, right? Doesn't make sense. Bring your hands together. Except it does make sense, right? It actually does if I don't try to think about it. I can actually experience it, getting back to what Mary's saying, right? Like you can experience that connection and make yourself congruent with it. Good, and then release. And because my low back is like tight, lean forward, lengthen your low back, right? So you don't just want vertical, but at first that's what I'm going to emphasize. So I'm going to lean forward and hit my sitting bones down and then hit down there. And if I lift the front side of my sternum, drop my shoulder blades, the pose gets more full or something. And then if I try to roll the inner head of my femur bones down, but do it by broadening across my very low back or my sacrum, and then press down through my feet, my heels. When you do all that, does your chest elongate? Your spine elongates? Mine does. So I'm just gonna like take that in. Dang, I like that. I'm coming into phase. My body is gonna join me this week. I teach a training Tuesday through Thursday, so I'm gonna be a lot in my head this week, trying to describe things. And so I'm gonna feel here with you today, right? But this is a good way to start your own week. Good, and then release. I've got this more spaciousness in my back. And remember last week, we lifted up a lot, tried to let the low back elongate, but then stay faithful and not just collapse back down into the normal space, right? But to try to stay elongated. Then I'm going to grab my legs right away and ground it. So I'm going to try to keep myself, if I don't ground it, I go back to here, right? So I'm going to lift up, keep my chest lifted, the space inside my chest connected to what's outside of it. Then I'm going to take one hand and then the other on my knees to try to keep this elongation. On my exhalation, I'm going to drop my shoulder blades, hit down through my sitting bones, and extend out through the top of my head. On the inhalation, I'm going to expand in every direction. On the exhalation, I'm going to bring it into focus. Good, and then release. Remember, the exhalation brings you into the parasympathetic nervous system more. So although it's more focused, it's actually quieter and more connected, right? So sit up straight, and now instead of going through the lifting up, find the space in your back, elongate it, lift the chest, broaden across the sacrum, feel the feet on the floor. Notice if your breath goes faster into one side of your rib cage than the other. Mine does. And then I can connect the side that it doesn't go into as fast. I don't breathe as much through that nostril if you're breathing through your nose. I'm going to lean over, change gravity, open up, because I'm just wanting to touch everything. Like, is this a visualization, Marianne? I'm not sure, but I want to have my fingertips touch the sky. But I'm doing it by feeling the center of my chest more. Right? I'm not actually reaching. I'm letting the sky come to my fingertips. Right? And open. And ground down and lengthen up. Right? And then release. And now I can feel one shoulder is more open than the other. Right? I'm assuming my body has manifested. We've evolved for symmetry, right? We have two sides of everything, kind of, except for our spine, right? And so I'm going to open again, expand this way, expand this way. Now my window is not over here, so I got to go through the roof of my house to bring the sky down to my fingertips. Am I visualizing that? Not exactly. I'm not seeing it. I'm touching it by being open right here. Good, and then release. Come forward again. So you're gonna come forward, not again, I guess this is the first time, and lift the chest, right? Drop the shoulder blades, but keep them spreading, don't pinch them. Broaden across the sacrum. Now here, I can already tell my neck is kind of tight or collapsed at the base of the back of my neck. So as I take my chin up, I'm gonna try to lengthen the back of my neck as I take my chin up, right? Good, and then release. So notice how things work. So we're gonna do that again. We're gonna be forward. And instead of just throwing our chin back and shortening the back of the neck, we're gonna try to keep the back of the neck long as the chin goes up and see what happens when you do it with more precision. So come forward again, right? So I'm gonna ground my sitting bones, broaden my broaden my collarbones, keep my shoulder blades apart. So instead of just throwing my chin back, I'm gonna lengthen the back of my neck and then take my chin up. Does anyone notice more action on the shoulder blades down to the sitting bones, right? When you work the back side of your body? Yeah, yoga. Good, and then release. Contrast that with going back and up and over your chair and falling open, right? You learn two different things. When you fall open with gravity, or when you have to work to come up, come back to center, you have to work to come up through gravity, come forward again. Contrast the feelings of what coming up through gravity here feels like to open your chest, right? And then you're gonna release again. So it's like, you know how, doesn't it feel like when you drop your chest, it feels like a shadow coming over, like a cloud going over top, right? And then when you lift your chest, right? it's like the shadow kind of goes away, and the shadow is part of like knowing the light. So it's not like one's better than the other, but you're lifting up. Now elongating the neck and looking up, and then releasing and watching the, right? So here, when you go back over your chair and do a back bend this way, it's not like there's as much as a shadow. You're not having to fight through anything. You're already open and you're expanding, as if like the goal here is to just, the sunlight's already there. It's just letting it open. And then come through again and contrast it with up when you're forward. And then release. You know, a day I was watching this thing about maybe how bacteria might have, which is our, you know, our progeny, our progenitor, right? Our ancestors is probably bacteria or one-celled animals, right? They think that they formed in pools of seawater that were still, and then kept having sun come in, changing the energy, and then it cooling off again. So between the energy going back and forth between what's cooler and what's got more energy of heat, something started to come into being. Who knows if that's true, right? But it kind of makes sense, right? Here, come forward again. I'm more inward, and it's like if you were to say, remember, Hatha yoga is going to translate the integration or the yoking of the sun and the moon, right? So if you were to force me into a qualitative distinction, right, in words, I would say coming forward and being here would be more like dark moon, quieter energy, right? Cooler. And then as I start to activate my chest, start to lift up, I'm reaching from the dark or unchanging thing or something, trying to get more sunlight or light into the pool, right? So I'm just sitting here for a second, and then I'm going to go back, right? And in the less sunlight oriented, I'm going to ground and elongate without lifting my chest, trying to get some connotation for what the yogis might mean by moon, right? And then elongate and open, right? And open the chest and reach for the sunlight, but don't give up the gain of the moon, the quote, less bright energy. And then release. Stay inward and stay down. And you know, it's like the idea to me that somehow, who knows if this is a wives' tale, but I doubt it is, that somehow women's cycles are more connected to the moon, right? And then elongate and open and try to bring more in here. Now, if you're overworking your low back, make sure you're grounding your sitting bones, spreading them, and not taking too much stress into your low back. So this is what sunlight comes out of the earth. And so there's a good chance we came out of the earth towards the sun, right? Good, and then release. Now contrast this again, right? So that really grounded, kind of more pressurized space that came with the back bend forward, it's going to be very different here. Come back over the back of it. So now you can kind of see this feels more spacious and like there's more light, right? And I get this. It's like, that kind of is, in some ways, feels less work and more joyful. Right? So I'm going to take that in. And then I'm going to come back to neutral. But I don't want to forget what came from forward, right? So I'm going to now ground my sitting bones, feel my heels go from the back of my eyes, stay connected, that comes more from the earth and from grounding. Keep that as I come up and over the back of my chair, right? So I'm trying to have both. I'm trying to yoke the sun and the moon, right, into a movement. Sun and the moon understood as qualitative energies of your pose. And my breath wants to touch both the moon part and the sun part, and then come back to neutral. So come forward again. And this is why I think Angelique's idea of touching through breath, like your touchstone being your breath, make sure your breath now is more congruent with what comes out of the ground. Keep that awareness, move back over your chair, keep the connection to, quote, the moon, whatever that means, and open towards the sun. As I spread my shoulder blades, open the hood of my chest, that action comes from not the spacious sun, but from the grounded earth. As I open this way. And then come into neutral. So when these damn yogis say Hatha yoga is trying to yoke the sun and the moon, they're trying to describe something. And they're forced to say things to us like the sound of one hand clapping. Of course, this isn't the moon. Of course, this is right. Of course, this isn't exactly the sun, except they're trying to say something in a realm that doesn't have words. And you can follow it. So can I. Right? So now I'm going to take this idea of something staying more grounded and something opening, lift my chest. And now when I go back and forth, way more awareness to it. I'm watching both. I'm watching both. Both things, sun and moon, in an action that's fluid. Can't believe rhythm is possible here, right? I can't believe the thing that closes the gap between the sun and the moon is actually my rhythm, right? And then lean over to the left and take your arm up and straighten it, right? And then come back and then go the other way, right? Ground, find the grounding of the earth, take the arm up, right? And then go back and then go the first way. Shift, make it more, make it felt, make it more open, and then just go back open, right? Make this burst forth right here, right? So take your arm even farther back. Oh, that doesn't feel quite so good for me. So I'm gonna come back out of it a little bit, right? But now I gotta do it on the other side, for God's sakes, right? Got an equal opportunities, pain causer. I'm gonna open it up a little bit here, right? Now I don't know about you, but I feel more space right here, right? Right here and right here. I'm gonna touch the top of my head. I'm gonna hit down through my sitting bones, lengthen up, right? And I'm gonna try to keep this spaciousness being marked by this type of center line grounding. Then I'm gonna do it with the other hand. Dang, I don't do it as good this way. Crap, I don't get the same feeling. Oh, well, I got one side that's different than the other. Now I'm gonna release, I'm gonna take both arms up. And try to get both the down and the up. I'm gonna feel the air on my skin here, right, on my forearm. And to receive that air here, right above my forearm, I'm gonna try to spread the skin on the forearm part that's towards the ceiling. When you try to open the skin here, does anyone feel your shoulder blades activate? Right? You lengthen from here to here to do it. All these things are occurring. Right? And then release. And then take your arms behind you. Roll both shoulders back. Lift under the collarbones. Drop the shoulder blades. Now this is hard for me. I'm going to try to take my chin up without shortening the back of my neck too much. Ooh, that's hard. Right? It's going to shorten without me. Damn it. So now I'm going to try to do the other thing. I'm going to try to take my chin down. Lift my sternum up. Because when I can't do one thing in one direction, obviously, often when I work in the other direction, I can, once I get this, now I'm going to take my head back. Always work the opposite, right? Good. And then release. When you have trouble moving in one direction, try moving in the opposite direction. And then find how the two balance. This is going to be how asana works all the time, right? So I'm going to take my arms back up. You can do one at a time if you want, right? And I'm going to try to figure out, without looking, how to have my forearms press against the ceiling. This part of my arm. And I'm going to press even by my wrists into the ceiling. Drop my shoulder blades. Now I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones and stretch out to the top of my head. Elongate my spine. Now I'm going to extend from my inner groin to the inner knee to the inner heel. Holy crimes, this is hard for me. I don't know about you. Right? And then release. Was that hard for anyone to do? Thumbs up. Like when you try to do all that, move up, move down, like at the same time. Right? Let's try it again. So again, I'm trying to elongate up. I'm lengthening this way. I'm broadening the skin this way, right? In order to broaden my sitting bones and to feel each heel. And I'm dropping my shoulder blades and trying to put my forearms against the ceiling. Extending from the inner groin to the inner knee and down through the floor. Holy crimes. Good, and then release. Anyone feel like you're a little shorter of breath right now? I am. Maybe I just overdid it. Right? But holy crimes. I'm going to take my arms behind me again. Now, one of the things they say about shoulder stand is one of the things, and even this bond that we did in the beginning of class, is that it makes you peer inward into the center of the chest at the similar level of the sound of one hand clapping, right? So you're in here and going inward. Shoulder stands making you go inward. I'm broadening the shoulders back. Now, in this position of chest going towards the chin down over the chest, I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones and extend through my heels while my chest lifts and my chin drops. I'm going to move opposites. Good, and then release. Come into this neutral. Like the place not where you're here, not where you're forcing it here, but where you're neutral, right? I gotta find it in my chair. I am having to put my hands, I'm trying to increase my base so I can find neutral, right? Because if I just sit back in my chair, that's not neutral. If I come too far forward, that's not neutral. So I'm trying to find neutral. So find that neutral place. And be aware both of the front side, this part, and the back side, the forward part. Like when you're more asserting the moon, right? And find them both sitting in neutral. Now take your left hand outside your right leg. Now we're just right at the end, do a really gentle twist. Find both the front and back side of your pose. And add a twist. So you're balancing all the forward, the forward back bend and the backward over the back of your chair, and you're trying to balance the two. And then come back to center. Again, I'm finding here, right, the more powerful lift from the earth, the more opening lift from the front. And then taking my hand over to the side and then refinding the strength from the back body, the opening of the front body. And then I'm elongating my spine and adding a twist. All this dimension is in the realm of the sound of one hand clapping. It's past being able to visualize it. Good, and then release. So again, sit in symmetry. Front and back, soften your jaw, the inside of your mouth. The expanse has a sound of one hand clapping. It's got the sound of the silent Om. Either I'm humble with it in relationship to it, or I ignore it. It's up to you. So then prepare for Shavasana. Go quiet towards the earth in the middle of the expanse. Let the chair hold you up. But let there be an expanse. The earth and the sky are in Shavasana. It's got to be a short Savasana because I went too long. So feel your breath. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. If it's too bright, close them. One of the things I really like about open them again, about plants, this is me imagining, like, I don't know, but they don't have to see the sun. They just take in the energy, right? They actually let it into the system. So if you need to visualize to do yoga, I have to do it sometimes, right? That's all good, but know that the goal of visualizing the poses that you're not able to fully do is to actually quiet down your mind, not give it objects to think about. Right? Because at the end of the day, it's the experience that does the teacher. Right? And so there's the pose and there's the place beneath the pose that is becoming part of asana while you're moving. One way to introduce movement and grounding is by paying attention to your breath, like what Angelique was saying, right? So it's fun. Today's a sunny day here, albeit cold in Minnesota, so at least the sun feels good. All right, everybody. I'll stay on for comments and reactions. Hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.